All right, guys, Trey Smith here. First off, thank you for taking the time to join me for this event. I know you guys are busy, and I promise you we're not going to waste your time. This is going to be a fun one. This is going to be unlike a lot of the events we've done here at Buildbox. If you don't know what Buildbox is, I'll talk about that later just for a second. But this event is actually all about you. It's all about how you can increase your game business, how you can start one and crush it in today's climate. Because a lot has changed in the game business world since the invention of the App Store a few years ago. And we've been there. We've traversed it. We've learned a lot. And that's what we're going to talk about on this event. This is all about what we're doing in our game business. This is me with a keynote presentation, just showing you exactly what's working for us now. You guys probably heard last week in a couple emails and a video, I talked about how I met with David Reichelt, the creator of Color Switch. I flew out to Amsterdam. I met with Simon Crack. I met with Kevin Wolstenholme, and I talked to these guys who are crushing it. They have 10 Apple features each in the past year and a half or something like that. And talked to these guys and said, hey, what are you doing? I met people out here in Silicon Valley this year and asked them, successful game developers and game business owners, what are you guys doing? And everyone I'm seeing who is successful right now is doing the same thing we're doing. And that's what I'm going to show you guys tonight. So welcome to the How to Crush the App Store event. And it's called this for a reason. I'm going to show you guys specifically what's working now. And it's really cool. It's not that difficult. And in my eyes, I'm very glad that the industry has shifted. We're going to talk about how it's shifted, but it's really a great step in the right direction because now you can build a sustainable business. And that was not always the case with mobile games, as a lot of you guys know. All right. So again, my name is Trey Smith. I'm the founder of a company called Buildbox. And in case you don't know us, if you haven't heard of Buildbox, we make game creation software. This is a picture of it here, and it's really cool. It's easy to use. It's made games like Color Switch and The Lion's Den and Slip Away, Bottle Flipping, a lot of these meme games, Trump on the Run, and a lot of these different meme games were created with Buildbox. We use it ourselves solely in our game company, and it's fun software. It's actually done a lot better than we anticipated, to be honest with you. But I'm going to tell you guys, this event is not about Buildbox. This event is about you. It's about building an indie game business. And now you might be asking yourself, these guys make software. Do they really know anything about the game business? And that would be a great question. I can see asking that myself if I was watching an event like this. So I'll tell you, before I started Buildbox, I started a game company. This game company is now called Buildbox Games, which makes sense since we're heavily invested in creating this software. But the original name of it was Kaya Bit Games, which is named after my daughter, Kaya. And we had a lot of hit games back then. This is in 2010, I started this company. And together with Nick Rudenko, Nick is now our CTO at Buildbox. A lot of you guys know Nick and follow him on Facebook and stuff. And Nick was the first hire I ever made in this game company. And then this game company ended up turning into Buildbox and expanding, etc. But we made a lot of games back then that did pretty good, like Jump Pack, Maze Plus, Monster Magic. All these games broke the top 25. And here we are now 5 years later, and we still have a very profitable game business that is actually doing better than ever. Our last 2 years of revenue was more than the previous 4 years combined. So it's been a really, really good run. And using Buildbox, we've created a lot of top mobile games you might have played recently, more recently than Jump Pack and those other games. Like The Lion's Den, Nick made a game called Sky, made a game called Phases, Wall Switch, The Pit, and a recent one I'm really excited about, a collaboration with Ketchup, one of the largest game publishers out there, and Bruce Lee. It's called Bruce Lee Dragon Run. So as you can see, we have a lot of experience here, and in total, we've had 8 games break the top 25 of the App Store. And we're really stoked about this. Recently crossed 65 million downloads. Never would have guessed that when we got started just a few years ago, but pretty cool. So as you can see, we have a lot of experience in the indie game world. We actually started there and then got into software, not the opposite. And it's worked out great for us, but it's not been by accident. We use very specific systems to grow our business. And on this event, I'm going to show you exactly what those are. But first, I want to talk to you about the shift because the mobile industry, the app industry, has gone through a major, major shift. Things change extremely fast in the mobile world. And what worked last year won't work this year. And even to be more specific, and this is interesting because I haven't seen anyone come out and say this. When I wrote this blog post, I searched around. I didn't see anyone talking about this. But App Store optimization, I'll be the first to say it, is dead. And if you're not familiar with App Store optimization with ASO, here's a quick breakdown. In the early days,
most people got downloads, including me, through people searching the App Store. For example, if you rank number 1 for fun game, then you would get a lot of downloads from people searching fun game. And this is how we got our first 10 million downloads in Kayabit games, was through ASO. But then something happened. Apple made 5 dramatic changes, and this changed the whole game for ASO. The first change that Apple made was as more apps were added, search became diluted. And in Apple's defense, they couldn't really help this, okay? But let me give you an example. About a year and a half ago, Apple would actually show you how many results were for a specific keyword. They quit doing this, but I snagged a screenshot, or found one rather, that had this on there. And you can see, this is a couple years ago. When you search dead, 1,522 results would come up, okay? That's just on one kind of random keyword. It's not like it was game or free or something that would be really high trafficked. And the second thing, and Apple did do this one, they created a trending section. And I think it was a smart idea, but still it lowered the search volume. Now, a lot of people, when they open this up, instead of searching, they're just clicking on something that's already trending. And I don't blame them for doing this, but again, it did affect ASO. Then the number 3 thing that Apple did is they added ads to take the top spot. Now, you already don't have a lot of screen real estate here that your game can show up in. And now that ads take up a dramatically large portion of the top section there, you have even less. Number 4, they changed the search algorithm multiple times to show more mainstream apps. Was this a bad thing? No, I think it was a really smart thing. Of course, Temple Run doesn't really need more downloads, but it provides a great experience for its users. And I don't blame them one bit for doing that, but it hurt ASO. And then number 5, Apple decreased how many apps show when you search. Okay, they used to have a setup sort of like this back in I think it was iOS 4 is when they changed this. And it was great. You could type in free game or some search term, and you would be able to scroll through a lot of different games. But then now this is what it looks like. You type in free game, you're going to see one game in just the very top of another one. This is fantastic if you're the top game. And this is one reason that 8-Ball Pool and games like this do extremely well. The rich do get richer in the App Store because of search, or you could say the downloaded get more downloaded. And this is a prime example. They're constantly in the free charts and they're constantly in top grossing. So it's not that ASO quit working. It's that it just only favors now apps that are already doing really well. You'll notice when an app does shoot up in ASO, that is a new app. It's only going to be there for about a week until Apple docks its search power. They do that. They give like a little bit of power to an app for 1 week, and then they remove this power from that app and it sinks down. So you can't build a lasting business on it unless you somehow get massive amounts of traffic. Okay, so ASO got tough. In the early days, app search is how people grew their business. Heck, we got our first 10 million downloads through app search. But now, I do not know a single person who is actively growing a business with ASO. Now, this doesn't mean that no one out there is making $1 off of ASO, okay? There are some people doing it, serving really small niches and different things like that. But I don't know anyone who's crushing it with ASO, whose business is getting bigger month over month, like the other ways that you can grow games and grow your game business. ASO dying created a major discovery problem for indie guys like us, for small-time publishers. And this is very typical. Once an industry matures, the early adopters, they get in, they figure out some sort of system that's going to have their app or their game or their software or their book or whatever media industry it is discovered. And then as it gets more crowded, then that discovery goes down, okay? And this is very typical. So what's the solution? Well, to figure out the solution, we should look at other more mature entertainment industries and see what happened there, because these problems that we are facing right now in the app industry are absolutely nothing new. In fact, this discovery problem has happened in every other entertainment industry ever. It wasn't always App Store search, it wasn't always ASO, but there was something that worked and then stopped, and then discovery became difficult. And in each industry, every media industry ever, has always spawned a whole new sub-industry to fix this problem. So let me give you guys some examples. Let's start with the music industry. That's a fun one. How do creators of songs get their music out into a crowded marketplace? Discoverability is very difficult. Distribution is very difficult. And they do it with record labels, right? If you're a musical artist, you want to be signed to Capitol Records, EMI, etc. In fact, I did some research on this because I was curious. There's only 2 artists who have ever hit #1 on the Billboard charts in the whole history of recorded music. There's only 2 people to ever hit #1 without a record label. One is pretty recent, Macklemore, which is pretty famous. But then before that was Lisa Loeb in 1994 because she was friends with Ethan Hawke and gave a song that she made to Ben Stiller. All right, some random trivia for you. He put it on the soundtrack to Reality Bites and it hit #1. That's the 2 times that it's ever happened. So it's possible, but it is very unlikely. The vast majority of people who are doing well in the music industry are signed artists. They're not unsigned artists. And this is typical with every industry. How do the books you read make it to Barnes & Noble? All right, they go through a book publisher like Random House, HarperCollins. How do movies you see get distributed to movie theaters, right? Obviously, they're not driving them to the theaters themselves. They're going through film studios like Miramax, MGM, etc. And what about the video games you play on consoles? All right, they are distributed through game publishers, Microsoft, EA, Bethesda, probably pronouncing that wrong. All right. And you know what's funny about Bethesda is I am a huge fan of their games, right? Loved Morrowind, played Skyrim, Oblivion, all of them. And what's interesting is I thought they made Dishonored. I bought Dishonored and I really liked it. I didn't buy Dishonored 2, but I really liked the first one. And then I found out they just published that game. You know, a lot of the games you like probably aren't by the company you think they are, which is pretty fascinating to me. So music labels, book publishers, film studios, and console game publishers, they all serve the same purpose. That is to provide traffic, to provide distribution, and most importantly, to get the top tier content out to the masses. Now, the reason that I bolded top tier is because that's a really important word here, a really important phrase. You don't see publishers in any of these industries. You don't see record labels signing crappy music, all right? You don't see Miramax getting behind and really producing terrible movies, all right? But when the primary source of traffic for an industry is not based on any type of filtering, and that's what publishers are, they're filters for the top tier content, then you get a lot of crap in the industry. I'll give you an example. When ASO was the primary source of traffic for indie developers in the App Store, what did people focus on? Creating the best game they could? No, they focused on trying to nail down some search term. All right, there was a lot of really low quality content. You've seen it. You've been to the App Store and seen how much junk there was in there, and it's cleaned up a lot. And I think that's why Apple made these changes, because they didn't want people to find these really bad games. I think ASO was imploded because it was abused. And luckily, the low quality apps did not kill the industry. So it did evolve, and it took a while, but the app industry did mature, and it graduated to the publisher phase of distribution. So we're going to talk about the publisher phase, how to use this, what we do in our systems. But first, let's talk about all the app distribution phases so we can go back in time to 2009 and see what led up to where we are today. Now, in 2009, the primary way to get distribution or traffic for your app was to be featured. Now, there were some cases where you could be mentioned in the New York Times or something like that and hit the top 100, but that was rare. If you wanted to build a business back then, it was based on being featured. That sounds super scary, but again, it wasn't difficult to get featured back then. It was a really small market. We got featured in games that would never be featured now, and it was a lot easier back then. Then in 2011, it was about paid acquisition. Now, it's still about paid acquisition if you're a public company, if you were making social games, if you were like Machine Zone, MZ Now, or Supercell, and you're making $1 million a day, then you have a lot of money and you can do paid acquisition. But because of all those big behemoth companies, they drove up the prices for the indie developers, and paid acquisition died out really about 2012, late 2012. Then in 2013, ASO really hit. Started a little bit before that, but this is when it was really in its prime. People were claiming really good spots for top games. We did it too. We ranked #1 for the word music, for the word games, for free game. We had a lot of really good terms back then. But then again, this died out. And then in 2016 came the publisher-based distribution model. Just like all of the other proven industries, this finally happened for the App Store. And this is what everyone I know who's having success with video games in the mobile market is doing. So maturing to this phase is a great thing for developers. Instead of chasing our tails and trying to figure out what trick will work this week, how I can get ranked for this term, or do this, change my company name, or whatever trick of the week might be, we can focus on simply making games. The publishers do all the heavy lifting, and we just focus on creation. So how does mobile game publishing work? Well, it's actually pretty simple. I'll walk you through the model now. First, you are the developer, all right? Even if you're not technically a developer as the game business owner, we're going to refer to you as the developer. And you create the game, and you own all the rights. And this is important, guys. When you sign a game with a publisher, you are not signing over the rights to your game. You still own that IP. You sign a contract with the publisher for X amount of months. Typically, this will be 24 months or 2 years. Sometimes it'll be 3 years, but it can be as long or as short as you and your publisher agree. They upload the game to their account and they do all the marketing. Now, when this contract expires, when the 24 months or whatever is up, you get the game back and you can put it in your account if you want. Now, while you have the contract active, you split the revenue. And again, this is just for the amount that you've agreed on, the amount of months. At the end, you either renew or you get your game back. We have always renewed because it's always a good deal and our games are still making money. But if you feel like it did not go as well as you planned or hoped it would, you can get the game back and relaunch it yourself. So the interesting thing is this: while you have to split your money, the revenue, with the publisher, overall, you'll make much more on average. Let me give you an example. You can make 100% of a small pie, or you can make 50% of a much larger pie. And of course, your publisher will make the other 50%. Now, I'm not saying that you're always going to get a 50-50 split. Different publishers have different deals. But on average, even if you are in a publishing deal where you get 20%, you're going to make more revenue than you would going at it alone. So how is this possible? Why does it work like this? Why not just do what the publisher does? Because publishers typically will get your game much higher in the charts than you ever will alone. Since ASO is dead, if you have to go at it alone, you're basically praying for an Apple feature. That's pretty much your only option. And there are now 7,000 apps released each week on iOS, and Apple features about 10 games per week. Sometimes they feature less. But if you have a publisher, you're not dependent on Apple. So now the big question is this: how can publishers get games to the top better than we can? Well, each publisher has their own story, and they have their own unique ability. They all do different things, and they use different styles of marketing. But let's look at some examples. So here's how publishers push. Let's start with Ketchup. So they have 700 million users in their game, and they cross-promote the new games to these 700 million users. Makes sense, right? Fortify Games, they promote through Fortify's social media channels with over 14 million fans. Voodoo, they advertise games on various social networks. Absolute Games, they're here in Silicon Valley. They have great relationships with the App Store feature teams, right? That's a pretty cool one. So they get a lot of stuff featured. I think they have over like 80 games featured. Nanovation, they also are here in Silicon Valley. They have great relationships with Apple. And they also have a really strong social media presence. The interesting thing is they all do something different. So as you can see, they all have a different story, but they have one thing in common. What they do is not very repeatable. Not saying it's impossible, but it's not easy. It's hard to get 700 million downloads or have 10 million followers or know the right people at Apple. And honestly, for me, it is completely fine. I would much prefer to focus on making games and let other people do the promotional work. For me, making games is the fun part. So now let's talk about the other big elephant in the room question. How much can you make with a publisher? Okay, if you Google around, you're not going to find any answers on this. And there are two reasons people rarely answer this online. First, they can't discuss specific game revenue because they're under contract. You'll never hear us talking about any game revenue because we're under contract on all of our games. And part of that contract says we don't talk about that. Also, game revenue can wildly vary based on many different factors. Any publisher can push out a bomb, okay? Any publisher can push out a game that takes off like wildfire and does amazingly well. It's a really big, wide range. So basically, there is no single answer here. It's a really big sliding scale, and it varies greatly depending on the publisher, the game, the viralness of the game, how good your game is, and how well it monetizes. Now, after talking with hundreds of developers and publishers over the years, here's what we've seen on that sliding scale. But please note, your experiences could be very, very different. These are raw estimates here for example purposes, and they should be treated as such. All right, so let's go over a list of general ideas for developer revenue estimates. Now, this is assuming you have a decent publisher.
We're talking about a publisher with a good track record, some way to generate traffic and downloads for your game.
Even if your game does bomb, it can still generate some revenue, okay? Even if Apple doesn't feature it, if it's not in the top 25, they can still promote it to the previous users. In this case, over time, with a notable publisher, you should be able to make $1,000 from the game on the low end. All right, now, is it possible to make less than this? Absolutely. It's very dependent on your game and who you sign it with, okay, guys? There's a lot of people out there that promote themselves as publishers that have no marketing sense, that have absolutely no clue how to get games to the top. And if you sign with someone like that, it's very possible you could have $0 revenue. So we're talking about notable publishers, and I'll mention some of those in this event. All right, now, if you have a moderate success, we're talking about a game that breaks the top 100, does fairly well, not top 25, maybe top 50, something like that. It's a moderate success. Then you can look at making $10,000 over time, okay? Even if it's in the top 100, top 75, that's very possible. Is it going to happen every time? No, but it's definitely possible. It's a general estimate revenue for moderate success. All right, now, if you have a top 25 game, and I'm talking about a hit top 25 game, this does not mean that you have a game that hits the top 25 for 15 seconds. All right, that's great. You can put it on your resume, but that's not what we're talking about. If you have a top 25 game that's there for a few days that people really like, that has good retention, then it's very possible to make $50,000 from a game like that. Now, if you have a hit game, we're talking about a game that hits the very top, it's crushing it, it's doing really good, and maybe not even the very top game in the whole App Store, but top 10 multiple days, really popular game, and it's viral. You go to Twitter and you type in your game name and you see thousands of people talking about it. We're talking about a really hit game. Then it's possible to do $100,000. Of course, it's not going to happen every time, but as an estimate, we've seen that happen multiple times with multiple developers and multiple publishers, okay?
And if you have a unicorn, one of the games that takes over the App Store, and we've seen this happen more and more. It used to be extremely rare, but now with huge publishers out there and all of this going mainstream, we're seeing it happen more often. And we know multiple people that this has happened to, where their game starts getting 50, 75, even 100 million downloads, and it becomes the huge app of the moment that everyone's downloading. And if you create a game like this, if you make a unicorn, then it's not uncommon for a developer to make over $1 million.
It's extremely rare, but it's definitely possible. We've seen this happen multiple times in the past 12 months with indie developers publishing a unicorn-style game. So before we continue, what about indie publishing? Isn't that all the rage right now? And first off, I fully support indie publishing. I think it's awesome. There will always be the crossy road type game that comes out of nowhere and absolutely crushes it. And that is amazing. It's absolutely great, but it's also very rare. Even games like Angry Birds came out published. And then of course, after they got huge, they went on their own. And that's happened multiple times with games like Cut the Rope and Angry Birds. But when you go at it alone, it's like playing the lottery right now. And it's very hard to build a business playing the lottery. In my company, we're looking for repeatable success. And this is why we've stuck with the publishing model. It's worked great for us. It's helped us cross 55 million downloads, grow a 7-figure mobile game business, and consistently get games in the top of the charts. And here's how we do it. All right, so now we're going to talk about how you can get your games published. Let's get into the actual explanation of our systems. I'm going to show you guys exactly what we do. So I approach this process from 4 key areas. The first one is I analyze. The second thing I do is create. All right, then we pitch, and then, of course, repeat. Now listen, most people skip the 2 most important parts of this equation. Instead, their system looks like this. They just create and then pitch. That is it. And listen, this will rarely work. We do things in a unique way, and it works. We have a 100% success rate on getting games published. That means we've literally never sent a game to a publisher that we've made that did not get immediately picked up. And it's largely because of the 2 things that most people aren't doing, which is the analyze section and the repeat section. So here's what we do. Let's start off with analyze. We'll go through all of these. Analyze. This is about building the right game at the right time for the right publisher. The first step to building your game is to not build your game. Instead, you want to analyze what is going to work for the publisher. This is a stark contrast to what most people do. Most people create their game, then they hope and pray a publisher will like it. Instead, you want to reverse engineer what is working best for the publisher, because publishers are extremely smart. They spot trends and they create them before anyone else. They know what will be hot next year before anyone else. If they see something working, they won't announce it. They're not going to tell you. They're not going to post it on their Twitter feed, but they'll be looking for it. So how do you know what's working for them? It's actually pretty simple. The first step is to search the publisher on iTunes. We'll use Absolute Games for an example. This is my friend David's company, really good publishing company. All right, so we would search for Absolute Games. Then we would click on one of their games, and then we would click on their company name. And this is how we would find all of Absolute Games in the App Store. All right, so notice that we're sorted by bestsellers. These are all of their games sorted by bestsellers. Take note of what kind of games are listed here. I see a lot of minimal polygon-based games. I see a lot of Buildbox games, but let's just talk about the style. I see a lot of minimal polygon-style games. So the first thing you might think is, okay, this is the types of games we need to send Absolute. Now, this is even if you did this much research. A lot of people wouldn't even get this far. A lot of people would just send whatever they were creating without any thought process. But you might see this and think, okay, I'm going to make a minimal polygon-based game. But our research is not done yet. Now we've sorted by release date. Do you see any trends here? Interesting. It seems that the most recent games released by Absolute are not minimal polygon-based games. And I spot a few of the best sellers on this list too. Right here, they're all cute, illustrative, character-based games. We have Dashy the Cat, Flip Heroes, which is arguably minimal, but not as minimal and polygon-based as the other ones, and Rolly Worms. They're all character-based. We got some pixelated graphics. Definitely a different theme than we saw when searching by best games. In fact, the only ones that are minimal polygon-based games are these two paid games. And that is another interesting trend to notice. It seems that Absolute has recently changed its strategy, or at least it's signing different types of games right now. Now, does this mean that Absolute will only publish illustrated free games and minimal paid games? Absolutely not. Last week, they got a game featured by Apple that is a minimal game, okay? But we know for a fact that both of these are trending with Absolute. Also, this does not mean that free minimal games are dead. Other publishers still only release those. So it's always publisher dependent. You want to do this research on each publisher. But the interesting thing is this. Most people don't do the research. I bet you that a large number of Absolute's current submissions are minimal games, even though that is not what they are actively publishing at the moment, at least the most thing that they're publishing at the moment. It's important to research heavy and make sure you are creating the right game at the right time. From this point, you should not stop researching. This is step one of many, not the end of your research on publishers. You would keep digging. It'll take me too long to go over everything, but in short, you would now find out what games were recently successful for Absolute. You would want to find out how many downloads those recent successes had. Then you would build a list of qualities in these most successful games, and this list would be used during your game design process. Now you're ready to start building a game. But it's important to note, again, each publisher will have at least slight deviations in what they will sign. A game that's great for Absolute might not be great for Ketchup, and a game that's great for Ketchup might not be great for Fortify. Some games will have crossover appeal to multiple publishers, and others will not. Each publisher has its own trends, so if you truly want to succeed in this, you need to know what works for each publisher, okay? So now let's talk about creating the game. And we're going to show you how to build a featured-worthy game. Now, featured-worthy means that the game is good enough to be featured by Apple. Now, even though not every publisher out there relies on Apple for traffic, still, they're not going to sign a game if they don't think it's good enough to be featured by Apple. That's kind of the quality measurement here we're shooting for. So now it's time to build your game. Let's look at the core concepts that you should focus on when creating a game for publishers. You'll need 3 things to effectively create a great game. The first one is unique gameplay. You cannot rip off someone else's gameplay exactly. If you do that, your game will not get published. If you've submitted games to publishers you think look great and haven't even gotten a response back, then that's probably one reason. Innovative design. All right, you want to get design cues from other games from success, but you want to do something a little bit different. You want your game to stand out, but still be pleasing. And this is a new one that publishers are really looking for now, which is great retention. Retention is how long someone plays your game. Not even necessarily a single session, but how often do they come back and play this game? The more someone plays a game, the more viral the game gets because they're sharing it with their friends because it's in their mind more. The more money and revenue you're going to generate because they're going to see more ads. Retention is really important. It's always been important for social games, but this is getting important now for any type of game, including more simple styled arcade games. So here's how to do each. All right, so unique gameplay. While we want to use unique gameplay, we also want to base the mechanics on things that we know work. When you're analyzing publisher games, think about why they are fun. Did you play the more popular games longer than the publisher's other games? If so, why did you play them more? What about the gameplay was fun? Was the jump height too high or did it feel perfect? Notice the controls and movements of the game. Are they complex or are they simple? Was it one touch or did you use two touch? Was there invisible buttons? Was it swipe? Do the successful ones have anything in common? Also, focus on the frequency, timing, and concentration of the game. Are you tapping constantly? Is it like Flappy Bird where it's really this kind of monotonous tapping motion, right? Almost hypnotic? Is it stressful or was it easy tapping? Make as many notes as you can on the publisher's games. And later on, you'll find similarities between all these publishers. You'll be like, wow, a lot of these games are portrait, this and that. You'll notice things that are similar between them. The point is to question everything. Ask why to everything that you see, hear, or feel. Figure out all the elements that make the game successful and write them down on a notepad. Now borrow these elements for your game and listen. Maybe only 1/5 of these elements will make the cut. Heck, maybe only one of them will. But it gives you a starting point and it gives you a goal to reach. And it lets you base your gameplay ideas off of data instead of complete randomness. Inspiration is everywhere. Try taking a popular similar game and flipping it on its head. If the game has horizontal gameplay, flip it vertically. If the game has one ball, try adding two. These little changes could be the inspiration that ignite the game's creation. All right, so now let's talk about innovative design. Bad design is an immediate turnoff to any publisher. This goes for both art and user interface design. So make sure to use pleasing color palettes. And remember, with design, less is always more. If you have no clue about design and you do not want to hire a designer or an artist, start studying the color palettes of games. Check out the colors used in the most popular games by your publisher. Are they bright? Are they pastel? Are they dark? Are they a little bit of everything? Then use this data and search similar palettes on colorlovers.com. This is an example of some palettes there that were on the homepage. I love this site and I've got a lot of different ideas from it. I've also used a color tool to get palette data off of other popular indie games. For example, I did this with the first game I ever got published called Phases. So Phases, the original inspiration for this game, it looks nothing like it, was called Electronic Superjoy. Really fun game. You can see here I use Pixelmator, and this is the color tool in Pixelmator, and I can find out the exact different hue, the hexadecimal color of the pink that they used. And I use this for original inspiration, but like everything I do in my companies, I model and improve the colors I found. I don't use the exact colors. The end result is unique, but you can feel the inspiration. Of course, this is Phases on the left and Electronic Superjoy on the right. And I'm sure that Electronic Superjoy also got inspiration from games like Limbo. And who knows, Limbo probably got inspiration from something else, and it goes on forever. As you can see, I didn't use any of the exact colors, but instead I drew inspiration from the hue, the tone, the overall aesthetic of the game. Of course, you should base your design from the recent successful trends of the publisher. My game Phases was specifically built for Ketchup, also Ketchup 2 years ago. And I added a lot of white and brighter tones because that is what they were actively publishing at the time. So that's graphic design. And even if you have an absolutely beautiful game, regardless of how great it is, you still need to have great retention. Retention is how many users come back to play the game and how often they do it. This can be tough, but you need to figure out why the best games have great retention. This is something that all publishers started focusing on in 2016. Simply put, the more retention your game gets, the more revenue for both you and the publisher. This is a great way to build a lasting relationship with a publisher. So the best way to improve retention is have a fun game. All the other tricks like giving free daily prizes, sending push notifications, and adding new characters and features, that doesn't matter if your game is not fun. None of that should be your focus. Instead, put all the effort that you were going to spend on that into making a truly fun experience for your users. Now, what specifically is fun? And can it be reverse engineered? Seems like a tough one, but it absolutely can. Read the book, The Art of Game Design by Jesse Snell. Learn about surprise and wonder and how important these two things are to your game. Sink into the philosophy of what is a game. It's fascinating stuff. And if you're new, the best way to figure out fun, excitement, and retention is to study it. When you play games, notice your reactions and figure out why you have them. Take notes, pay attention to details, and schedule daily time to work on your game ideas. That's really important. If you Buildbox users out there, if you're using Buildbox, you need to do it daily. You need to really be involved and think about this. Or if you have a programmer team or whatnot, you need to talk with those guys daily. The more you do it, the better you'll get. So that's gameplay, design, and retention, the three most important aspects of creating a game when you are pitching to publishers. And remember, the game needs to be featured worthy as well. And featured worthy is an important phrase. It simply means the game's quality has to be high enough to be featured by Apple. Now, what is important to the feature team? Well, the first time I met with the App Store Games Division, I asked them this question. And they said that they were looking for extremely polished games. And publishers know this. This means you have to not only finish your game, but polish, and polish until it's perfected. Honestly, I don't think most people understand this part completely because you can't just do this 80%. It's got to be 110%. It's what separates the amateurs from the professionals. You have to be able to play your game and never think, that didn't feel 100% correct. That wasn't right. Every collision shape, hit point, enemy level, character movement, atmospheric change, color, and sound has to be perfect in your game. It has to feel like you've created a new universe that your game lives in. Everything from the menu to the sound effects have to be a cohesive endeavor. Everything must feel natural, and the user must never feel cheated when playing your game. When they die, they must always feel like it was completely in their era. The game must flow extremely well, and it must be effortless to play. And when you have done this, when you have done all of that, you are going to absolutely hate your game, and that is okay, because at that point, it'll be ready to submit to publishers. And that's what it takes to create a featured-worthy game. Even if it's a minimal game, it's not easy, but it's very, very rewarding. You'll have a lot of confidence in your game. You'll really believe you can do it at this point, and you'll almost be surprised if it doesn't get published. So now let's check out how you'll send this game to a publisher. All right, so this section's all about the pitch, successfully emailing your game to a publisher. So listen, guys, I'm going to level with you. Publishers get about 100 games per day sent to them. So they try to look at as many of these as possible, but it's impossible for each publisher to see them all. So I'm going to show you how we got our games seen by publishers before we knew them. But this is a tough one, and there are no guarantees here. Your best option, if possible, is to get an introduction. The game business, like many other businesses, works a lot on handshakes. So I do strongly recommend making it out to conferences, getting to know people, etc. And of course, you need to be able to make good games. Every introduction in the world won't matter if the game isn't up to speed. But don't lose hope. Even if you're not the social type, I got my games initially published without shaking any hands. Here's how I did it. All right, so how to submit your game to a publisher. Step 1, always keep emails short and sweet. Listen, guys, if you send an email to someone you want to do business with who has a business bigger than yours, always keep it short and sweet. Anyone's attention you want to get. Even at Buildbox, we get a lot of emails that are super long. They rarely get read unless it's to support staff. But if it's to key members in the organization, because people are busy, all right, these publishers are getting 100 emails per day. You got their attention if they open that email for about 5 seconds. Keep it short and sweet. Include a video of your game and no more than 3 pictures. Again, we just want to hit all the points that they want to see real fast. From your research, quickly explain why the game will work for them in no more than 2 sentences. Use bananatag.com to track opens and responses. So first, let me show you an example email, then we'll discuss Bananatag. So here's an example email. To super awesome publisher from Trey Smith, subject Minivan Dan, which is going to be the game we're creating here. Hi, publisher name. My name is Trey, and I'm from an indie studio in California. We created a new game I think you guys might be interested in. YouTube link there. You can see some screenshots below, but we created this specifically for publisher name. We chose color palettes, landscape gameplay, and scrolling backgrounds because it seems those games have been doing well. Thanks, Trey Smith. That's a solid email a publisher would love to get. It gets straight to the point, it doesn't waste their time, and it has all pertinent information. So note, please do not copy this word for word. Please do not do that. People have done stuff like this in the past when I've had a training event and I've showed an email example, and it ends up looking really, really weird. If a publisher starts getting 5, 10 emails that look like that, their exact same format, then that's not good. So do this. If you want to model that, don't go back, don't watch that again, don't screenshot that or attempt to find a recording so you can find out exactly what I said. Just take the inspiration from it, okay? So this is to give you an example of how an email should look. Most importantly, is to show you the brevity of these emails. That's the big important part. When you are reading hundreds of emails per day, it's very important that they get to the point. So the easiest way to get passed over is to write more than what I did above. Now let's talk about Bananatag. This is easy. It's just open tracking for Gmail. It's a Chrome extension plugin. You install this plugin, and then anytime someone opens an email that you send from your Gmail account, you'll get a notification. You can actually decide when you actually track this. So anytime you send a message to a publisher, you'll tick off a little box that says track this email, and then you'll know when they opened it and when they clicked on any links. All right, and that's great. That's how you can find out if they're seeing it, because not everyone's going to have time to reply. And it's a good way to know if you've been passed over. All right, if someone opened it, they clicked the link, you don't hear back after a couple days, then obviously they've decided it was not a good fit for their company. Also, a great bonus with Bananatag is you can split test different subject lines in your email. Find out what works better over time. Just try a few different things and notice if something seems to work better than something else, and find out what gets a better open rate. And finally, for the people who are having a hard time reaching publishers, as you'll soon learn, we're about to start working with publishers and helping developers get guaranteed views of their game. So more about that in a minute. So that's emailing. Easier said than done, but these tips can definitely help you get seen in a sea of submissions. Now, the final part is to repeat. You want to build relationships. And guys, this is extremely powerful. This is what can cause your business to be truly sustainable. And that is really important. With any of the other options out there, like ASO, you never know if they're going to work tomorrow. If you're buying traffic to your games, you're only dependent on that traffic source selling you traffic for cheap. We all saw that happen in 2011. But when you're depending on multiple publishers to be your marketing power behind your games, if you have good relationships with those guys, and if you can work with them, and when you create games, pretty much know they're going to be signed before they're even finished, then you've created a sustainable business. Okay, so this is where we get to the sustainable business aspect of the training. While everything we discussed so far can get you a publishing deal, this section is what can build an ongoing, profitable business, because having one hit is great, but it really doesn't matter in the long run, okay? You want to do this consistently so you can grow your business. You don't want to have one hit and then quit your job and then everything falls apart. And to do this, you need to build a solid relationship with your publishers. We'll do this with 2 phases. The first part of building publisher relationships is phase 1. You want to earn their respect, okay? Phase 2 is going to be increase the relationship. You don't try to increase the relationship with a publisher until they respect you, right? Now, here's how you earn their respect. First off, you're always available. They're going to be dealing with a lot of flighty people, okay? Just human nature. A lot of the people they're going to deal with, they're not going to deliver stuff on time. We're always available. You always over-deliver. When a publisher asks you to create a feature in your game, you don't just do the bare minimum. You say, that's a great idea. You know what? We even tried something to make it even cooler. All right? You want to always over-deliver. You always beat time estimates. You don't tell them that you're going to have something ready in 2 weeks and then deliver it in 3 months. All right? That's not professional. They're not going to want to deal with you. Instead, you say it's going to be ready in 2 weeks and then you have it done, maybe a day or 2 early. No one's expecting you to work a miracle here, but you got to be responsible. They got to see that. You always learn from your mistakes. You got to own up to it. You can't be a prima donna in this business when you're working with publishers. And you never ask for more than you give. Remember, there's a lot more developers out there than publishers. You need them more than they need you. So be respectful of that. All right, so then you want to increase the relationship. You're going to do this by finding out what is working, by talking to them about, hey, we're thinking about the next game. What's working here? Learn what they are wanting. They'll tell you once you increase this relationship with them. Hey, what are you guys thinking about for the next 6 months? What trends are you seeing? Share your data. Bring things to the table. Show them, hey, look, we analyzed all the top games and we're seeing this. You guys agree with this? Help them in different ways. If you see any other way you can help them out, do that in their business. Say, hey, look, if you guys need a support person, I happen to know someone who's really good. Connect them with anyone you can. You meet other publishers, you meet people in the industry, let them know. Say, hey, I just had dinner with so-and-so. If you guys want an introduction, let me know if you need help there at Apple or Google or whatever. Increase your business potential, okay? Let them know that you're here for the long run and you're ready to do whatever it takes. Maybe you can get a special deal going with them. Maybe you can get something where they are working with celebrities or working with some tie-ins with music or who knows, right? Just make sure to explore all the potentials that are possible once your relationship is increased. It's not hard, yet so many people drop the ball on this. Basically, be the absolute coolest developer they have ever had on their roster. Always be assisting, but never annoying. And of course, use research and everything we discussed in the system to consistently churn out hit games for them. You would be very surprised at how many people in this industry really don't know what they're doing. They're not basing anything on data. They're just shooting from the hip, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So it's a real rarity in the industry when someone's paying attention to the details and can provide information on that. People really value that.
All right, guys, so that's the short of it. Obviously, there's a lot more to the process, but that's the start of how we get our games published. And if you do want to learn more and you want to take this to the next level, then you might want to listen to this because we're doing something pretty interesting. This is a rare chance for me and you to work together. And let me personally help you get your games published in a really big way. I'll explain in a second. And the good news is this, we actually have done this and it works really well. The last time I did it, I worked with 52 people to get their games signed. I worked with these guys for 1 year. And we ended up getting 25 deals done in the first 6 months. Here's a blog post we made about that. 25 deals in 6 months. We got deals done with every major publisher from Ketchup to Gameloft to Voodoo, Absolute, Nanovation, and more. And we even helped put together a unicorn game, someone from this group. You've probably played this game. It was enormous. The guy literally made over $1 million with this game. So because of this success, I've decided to do it again for a limited time. And in this program, you're going to learn everything, how to come up with game ideas and create great art, build a publisher-worthy game, and of course, exactly how to get your game signed. But we actually go a step further. We go even deeper with this. You'll have me not only teaching you, right, and showing you what to do, personally helping you along the way. I'll be doing stuff like telling you if your ideas are good or bad, how you can improve, and what you should do next. A lot of times I feel like people stop because they get to this point, they just don't know like the next thing to do. All right, if you have a problem like that, you email us and then we'll tell you. And finally, something even cooler. When your game is completely ready, I'll be personally emailing the publishers for you and pitching your game. I'll actually be emailing them and going, hey, look, this guy over here made a great game. Here's a video, screenshots. Here's why I think this would work good under your label. So this is a pretty cool experience, guys. And for the people who've been around, this is a little bit different. So introducing Publisher Elite X. I started this because there's a problem in the mobile game market. And the problem is game creators are having a hard time getting publishers' attention. If you've ever emailed a game to a publisher, you know this firsthand. And publishers are having a hard time finding the diamond in the rough game. As I mentioned, they're getting 100 games sent per day. How do you go through that, right? It's a pretty difficult process. Well, Publisher Elite was created to solve that gap. And in Publisher Elite X, we'll be creating and finalizing, polishing, and even pitching your games to publishers together. Everything from the very beginning, coming up with the initial idea, all the way to the emails that I draft out to the publishers on your behalf. Now, speaking of publishing, we've partnered with every major mobile game publisher in the industry to make this happen, including Ketchup, Fortify, Absolute, Chilingo, Voodoo, Noodle Cake, Tasty Pill, Umbrella, Nanovation,
and more. All of these guys are on board with this. They know we're sending them games. We've done it in the past, and we know exactly what all of these guys want, and we're helping them find games that fit their needs. All of these publishers will be at your disposal when you finalize your game. Now, if there's one publisher you want in particular, then that's great. You need to let me know early on so we can plan for that. And that's how we got a lot of the deals done in the previous one. Someone would say, look, I really want to be with Voodoo. I'd say, okay, well, Voodoo's looking for these types of games. You want to focus there, et cetera, et cetera. So here's how all this will work, guys. This is Publisher Elite X. It's broken down to a few different sections. All right, so it starts off with 6 modules of in-depth training. Now, these modules are all taught by me personally. It's over 6 hours of training that goes over every part of building a game business. We start with the game idea all the way through level design, creating art for your games, and I show you exactly how I create art for my games, even though I'm not really an artist, and more. It's 40 videos, and it has everything that you need to build a successful game company. I literally took everything that I've learned over the past 10 years and put it into this video series. And this was a huge help for people who joined Publisher Elite. They went on and on about how this really showed them a lot of things they didn't know about building a game business. Then also, you get a year long of personalized support. And this is both from me personally and the Buildbox team. We'll have a form that you filled out. If you're having an issue, with a game, you're not sure exactly what to do here, you're a little bit confused, you're not sure if it's fun, maybe you think it's too hard, too easy, or you think the graphics aren't quite good enough, you'll fill out this form and it'll go to myself and the BB team. A lot of times you'll get a response back from me personally saying, look, I think the game is good. I think you need to change the graphics a little bit. If you look at these 3 games that were very successful, and if you can model something like that and improve upon it, I think you'll have a better chance at getting signed to a publisher. Also, you might want to think about this publisher instead, etc., etc. So you get this personalized support for a whole entire year from the Buildbox team and from myself, helping you out with your game. And this is a big one. We don't want you to ever run into an obstacle and not know what to do next. So we really want to help you with that. Of course, a big part of this is the quarterly submissions. Every 3 months, we're going to submit your games to publishers for you. That's going to be done by me personally. I'm literally going to email, Nannovation, Voodoo, Ketchup, whoever, and say, hey, look, so this person made a game. I think it's really good. I've been working with them on this game, and I think this is going to be perfect for your publishing company, and you get a pitch from me personally. And the cool thing about that is, since we have deals worked out with all these publishers, it's guaranteed views. No more wondering, did they see my game? You will know for 100% sure they're going to look it over. They reply to me and go, okay, great. We'll take this one, and then I introduce you to them personally, so you have that connection. It's not about me making the connection and then just getting information from you. At that point, you are then going to know the publisher. I'll say, great, here's John, here's publisher, and then you'll take it from there. We're also going to have 4 live quarterly trend reporting events. These are going to be every 3 months as well, every quarter. And this is going to go over what's changing and trending in the mobile market. This is huge. It was like a year ago that every game you saw at the top of the App Store had a light background, mostly a white background. Now they're all black backgrounds. These are the type of trends I'm talking about. We'll see things go 3D and isometric for a while. Then we'll see things changing. We'll see games that are very reaction-based. Then we'll have trends that start coming through. And publishers will want games that have a little bit of RPG elements where you level up a very simple character. We'll see all these different types of trends. And I'm talking to all these publishers constantly and finding out what they want. And I report that to you guys every 3 months, because that's about the time things start to shift. So you know exactly what to focus on, and you're creating games that publishers are going to like. Also, if I get an update and I know that Voodoo is now wanting this type of game, or Absolute's going to want this type of game, I'll talk about that as well during these live events. And then finally, you get access to these exclusive Q&A sessions that I hosted with the first Publisher Elite with famous publishers and developers. And let me tell you, this was really cool. We're talking about like the founders of Fortify Games and Nannovation, Absolute, guys like David Reichelt, who created Color Switch, and Simon Crack, who has over 10 Apple features, and Kevin Westenholm, like really guys who were just absolutely crushing it in the game business, especially on the mobile side. And I did these interviews with them. It's over 6 hours long, and I've never released them. I've never given them out to anyone except for the first Publisher Elite group. And you guys get that 6 hours of interviews where I'm asking them specifically, what are you looking for? Why do you sign some games and not other games? And asking the developers, hey, how do you come up with this idea? Like, how did you come up with Color Switch? So it's really great. They've never been released. You get access to all of that as well. So as you can see, this is a very unique program. You'll start with massive training that I created to help you build a publisher-worthy game. And then when you're done with the training, you'll let me know what type of game you want to make, all right? And I'll give you specific feedback on what publisher you should shoot for, changes you should make, and I'll make sure that you're going in the right direction. A lot of people who are new to this might come up with an idea that's just going to simply not work, and I'll be very honest with you and tell you that. And I'll also let you know how you can make it work. Then for the 12-month period, we'll be personally helping you get your game signed every single quarter. And it's an amazing year-long program, and you'll have plenty of time to create, build, polish, and have us pitch your game. So let's go over everything in detail and start with the training modules. Each module will have a theme focused on a specific part of making your game. We'll start from the very beginning and discuss every aspect you need to make a great featured-worthy game. I've taken everything I've learned building this 65 million download game business, and I've boiled it down to the most important facts. And the first module is all about your foundation. So this one's really important, guys. Before we get started, I really want to talk about how you've set yourself up mentally, how you've set up your business and everything, so we have a strong foundation to build on. And we're going to break this down to two sections. We'll first have your personal preparations. I'm going to go through that. Then I'll show you the second section, and this is all in the first modules, multiple videos, all about getting you started. So first you have a welcome video from me. Then we'll talk about fortifying your personal setup. Then how you can manage multiple projects or jobs at once. I understand a lot of you guys are working. When I started my business, I had a full-time job. I'm going to talk to you all the way down from the beginning here on how to manage that. I'm going to show you guys the pull shot method that I use for motivation. I know a lot of times we have a hard time staying motivated. All right, I figured out a really good way to get around that and to constantly be motivated when I need to. I'm going to teach you that. Then also my 7 essential daily business habits that I do every single day and that I think is a very big reason that we've had success in the game industry. Then the second part of this is going to be about process creation. First, I'm going to talk about understanding industry infiltration, how to break into a new industry. I've done this multiple times. It's really important to understand the process of doing this. Then I'm going to show you effective digital spying, how you can spy and see what other companies are doing, learn how they're getting traffic, how these publishers are actually getting all the downloads, and then how people are getting games signed. And then we're going to talk about digital networking and growing contacts. I think that's a very important part of long-term success. And I'm going to talk to you and show you guys how I've done that, how I networked with people like Ketchup before they knew me, the Temple Run guys, and many more. And then we're going to talk about advance, model, and improve. You're going to hear me talk about model and improve a lot. I really think this is the major reason that we've had success, and I'm going to show you guys how we do that. And then finally, I'm going to give you my top 4 business books that I think you really must read if you want to be successful in business. These are the ones I go back to and reread and scan every single year, and I'll go over that as well. So module 2 is called The Intelligence, and this is going to be diving in a little bit deeper into the publisher realm. And we're going to start off with publisher diagnostics. We have a bunch of videos on this, and we start off with an in-depth publisher discussion, discussing all the different publishers in depth so you understand what each one is going to be looking for, how difficult each one is to get signed to, and more. Then we talk about the types of games you need to submit to each publisher. It's really important. The types of games that we recommend making if you want to try to hit multiple publishers, and then your chances of success with each one. Obviously, Ketchup's going to get a lot more games submitted to them than some of the other publishers, and we talk about that. Then I'm going to give you my tailor-made recommendation based upon your skill level. The second part of the intelligence is about publisher research. I'm going to show you how to do advanced research of publisher titles. Then I'm going to show you the download hacker method. This is pretty cool. It's a way to find out how many downloads any game has had. And this is important when you're trying to decide what type of game to make for a publisher. You obviously want to model and improve and know what's working for them before you start making a game. I'm going to show you how to do that. Then I'll show you how to build out a finalized database of publishers and their games that are successful, creating a gameplay model, and finalizing your art direction. Module 3 continues with the build. As you can see, we're slowly getting to the point where your game will be ready. Starting off with the foundation, moving into really studying publishers, and now we're talking about building your game. This will also be broken down into 2 sections. And the first section is idea and graphic design. So we're going to talk about your game idea and exactly what you want to come up with, how we come up with game ideas, and how to come up with a game idea that publishers are going to actually like. This is important. You do not just come up with something you think is cool. You don't just start with
with a Buildbox preset and just build off of that. We have a specific system for that. I go through it in detail. It's based on Model and Improve, and it's worked fantastic for us. Then we talk about finalizing your design structure and selecting your build method. How are you going to create your game? We've had some people in previous Publisher Elite classes use Buildbox. We had some people who actually coded themselves. Some had full game teams, and other people didn't have anyone and hired programmers. We're going to talk about all those different ways and discuss them in detail. Then we talk about how to create art, even if you're not an artist. I pride myself in not being an artist, yet creating some art in a lot of our games, some of our most successful games. And then I show you the only 4 styles of art that you should make. Everything else should be thrown out. These are the only 4 styles I think you should focus on. Then the second section is about game and level design. We're still under building your game. This is obviously extremely important to publishers because it causes retention. So the first thing I talk about is my game design manifesto, exactly how we do game design. And this is based upon all the books I've read on game design, all the real world experience we have creating games. And I go over that. Also show you my personal level design documents. So you've heard me mention systematizing things a lot. Well, in our game company, I have documents that I actually create when we hire people, new game developers, that we give them. I'm going to give that to you guys, all right? And this is how we literally build the games in our level. Then I'm going to show you main menu interface and user experience and how we do that, how you can make great menus and interfaces for your game, how you can build your game from retention right from the beginning when you make that first start level, exactly how to do that. And then, of course, a game design checklist. That way, when you're finished with your game, you make sure you have all the most important points. You can look over this multiple times. This is something you might want to print out, keep on your desk to remember. You have to have all these things before you actually finish your game. Now, Module 4, we're getting more into the publisher realm again because your game's going to be finally getting a little bit closer to being finished, and this is called the countermeasures. We're going to start off with 2 sections again. This one's going to be about creating attraction with publishers. I'm going to show you guys a very simple secret on how to never get turned down when submitting a game to a publisher, and it works very well. We've had more deals done with Ketchup, more signed contracts than any other developer. We've never had a game turned down from them. All right, we're working with other publishers as well. We got a lot coming out this year. I'm going to show you guys exactly how to do this and never get turned down when you submit a game. It's actually simpler than you think. Then I'm going to talk about publisher relations one-on-one, how you can build amazing relationships with publishers. I'm going to also show you what publishers want to see in your game, what they're going to be looking for, how to do social sharing setup. That's going to be very important. They want their games to go viral, and you have to have that set up for them. And then also, we're going to be talking about analyzing your gameplay with the publisher in mind. Then the second section for the countermeasures is about polishing and monetization. We're going to talk about the polishing process and what I call the bird's eye view. If you worked with me, if you were here in the Buildbox offices, you would hear me talking about this bird's eye view all the time. You probably get sick of it. It's been probably the biggest change in my life. I talk about this in the foundation, the very first module. I talk about it throughout the whole entire thing because it's really important. It's about really just looking at things from 500 feet in the air instead of being caught in the middle of something, in the middle of the grind on that level. And we go over that in detail. Then I'll talk about play testing and preparation, how you can play test on multiple people, how to find people, how to constantly find new people, how we do that. Then we talk about database tweaks and changes. You definitely want to take data and then tweak and change based on that. We talk about retention, monetization, making your game viral, and then finalizing your game as well. Module 5 is all about the charge, and this is actually getting into pitching publishers. And the first section is literally how to pitch publishers. So here's what we're going to do here. The first section is going to be about how to do this on your own. Then the second section of this module is all about what we're going to do for you. All right. I want you guys to be fully armed to the teeth, though. When you're done with Publisher Elite X, I want you to still know how to go out and pitch publishers. This worked extremely well. We had one customer named Michael Roberts, and it's pretty amazing. This guy, he was like, you know what? I don't want you to submit any games for me. I want to learn how to do this on my own. So he took this module 5 and he got 3 deals done on his own without us, which I thought was a little crazy because we were literally going to make the introductions for him. But he really wanted to do it on his own, and he did. So this is really important because we're going to be around for 1 year to help you out. But I want you guys to be prepared for the whole future. So the first thing with how to pitch publishers, we're going to talk about game evaluation discussion. Then I'm going to give you guys a pre-charge checklist. That means before you charge forward and go and submit your games to publishers, you got to have all this stuff done. We're going to talk about going at it solo. We're going to talk about creating the perfect video. Extremely important to have a great trailer. That's what's going to sell your game more than screenshots or anything. And then the perfect pitch. I'm actually going to show you guys specific emails I use, including the first email I ever used to pitch Catch App, and exactly what it said. They had no clue who I was. They weren't familiar with Buildbox, which wasn't even out at the time. I'm going to show you guys exactly how to do that. Then, of course, the second part of this is our team up strategy. I'm going to walk you through the quarterly submission process, give you my personal recommendations on where to start, how to get the publisher you want right from the beginning. Verified views explain. I'm going to show you exactly how we do this and how we can verify, make sure that each publisher is going to see your game that we submit to. And then the pre-trade checklist. That's going to be the checklist before you submit a game to me to go to the publisher, okay? So I want to make sure you have all the things checked off there, so I'm not going through a bunch of games that aren't quite ready yet, so you'll get that checklist as well. All right, then the final module, guys, this is about taking things to the next level, which we've done. We've done over 7 figures, over $1 million from our game business, over 65 million downloads, and a lot of it was all the things that you've learned so far in module 1 through 5, but 6 is about going to that next level. So we're going to talk about becoming multi-published. How to grow publisher relations, get multiple publishing deals with multiple different publishers, about releasing multiple games, building a system around this, building a team, seeing leadership roles, getting special opportunities. We're doing celebrity games with some big publishers you'll be seeing coming out very soon. And I'm going to talk about how we did that stuff and becoming an industry mover. We actually parlayed that into Buildbox, a whole separate company, right? And I'm going to talk to you and explain my whole history and how all of this happened, how it started with a website called Game Academy and more. All right, so this growth section is really my entrepreneur journey, and you're going to see exactly how we got to where we are now. Then we're going to talk about specifically growing your company, how to master social media. We have 200,000 followers on social media. We can drive a lot of traffic from that, which really helps us. Virtual assistants. So I started all of this with one employee from the Philippines. I'm going to talk to you about that. And her name is Diane. She's awesome. I'm going to tell you all about her. Then advanced system creation. As you know, I'm really big into systems. We're going to talk about how I come up with these systems and streamline them. And then outsourced hiring methods. I'm going to give you all of the training documents I have created for Buildbox staff to go hire outsourced people for their departments. And then I'm going to show you guys how to scale when you're ready, actually build a real company around this, hiring people, and even show you our org chart and more. So as you can see, guys, the training covers every aspect of building a published game, from the seed to your idea, to the final push to a publisher, and even a lot more, all the way down to creating a whole company and scaling out. And I spent a long time reverse engineering every part of this process, everything that I've done from the beginning in my own business. So the training is the core foundation for Publisher Elite, and it's backed by 4 other key features of this program. We have personal access and premium support. This is where me and the Buildbox staff are personally helping you with your game. Then we also have the expert Q&A sessions from famous entrepreneurs and developers, game creators, and publishers in the industry. And then we have quarterly trend reporting events, and of course the publisher game submissions that we do once a quarter. So the personal access and premium support, this is an important one. First off, you're going to consult with me on your game idea after you finish your training. You'll fill out a form, and then that's going to go directly to me. I'm going to look over your game idea, what you're thinking about doing. I'm going to do this with the Buildbox staff. We're going to reply and let you know if we think the game idea is good, how you should tweak it, some ideas for graphics, and more. Then we'll create a specific roadmap for your game that we're going to give you and show you what to focus on. During every submission process, every quarter, we'll get an update on your games and provide feedback on what you should be focusing on again. Now, you'll also get additional ongoing premium support that's unlimited for 1 full year. You can email in. Everyone almost in the company comes with a game business background, and of course me as well, to support you for this full year into getting your game signed. The real goal here, guys, is to bypass any roadblock or obstacle that you cross. We've seen this a lot working with developers over the years. A lot of times it's just one simple thing. They don't know what to do next. So the goal with this personal access and premium support is for you never to wonder, what do I need to do next to get my game published?
And I mentioned that we had these live expert Q&A sessions that were great. And you're going to get access to them. They're Q&A sessions from famous developers and publishers from our previous Publisher Elite sessions. They're actually all from the first one. You'll learn exactly what publishers want from the founders of major publishing companies themselves, like Zeb Jaffer from Fortify, Ari Silverman from Nanovation, and David Zilberfein from Absolute, and more. You'll also hear from rockstar developers like David Reichelt, who made Color Switch, and Simon Crack from Dead Cool Apps, on how they built their hit games. It's over 7 hours of publisher-specific interviews that have never been released, and you get it with Publisher Elite X. Then the quarterly trend report meetings. Every 3 months, we'll all gather for a private online event, and I'll show you what is currently trending in the market and what we see coming around the corner. We'll discuss new publishers, different trends, and I'll tell you what changes we're making in our game company. These things change fast in the app world, but you'll be on target with these quarterly reports. All right, and finally, we have the quarterly publisher submissions, all right? Probably the most important part. When you join Publisher Elite X, you get access to quarterly publisher submissions for a full year, all right? That means at the end of each quarter, every 3 months, if your game is ready, I will personally send it to a publisher that we've agreed on. And this is important. It does say if your game is ready. We obviously can't send unfinished games. That's how all of this works. The publishers are excited to see what we're going to send them because they know it's going to have my stamp of approval. But I'll make sure that you know what you need to focus on and then what you need to improve and how you need to change your game to make it ready. We also do not take any percentage of your game. We don't want to get involved with your contracts, with your percentages. After we make the introduction to the publisher and you move forward, then we're completely out of your business. So you can send a game every single quarter. So you literally have 4 opportunities here if you make 4 good games. And listen, if you don't know what a good game is, that's a big part of this program. You will know after going through the training, after talking with our support, after getting feedback from me, you'll know what it takes. And we're going to make sure that you understand how to complete that goal and create a game that's good enough to pitch. All right, guys, so that's Publisher Elite, a complete suite of training, expert Q&A sessions, events, personal consultation, publisher submissions by me personally, and more. It's the most successful program ever created for game developers, and the publishers absolutely love it. You don't have to take my word for it either. Here's an email I recently got from Nanovation. Hey Trey, just wanted to send a thank you note once again for having Nanovation being a part of Publishing Elite. The titles you have sent us are amazing and fortunately have been featured by Apple. We can't wait to receive more. Thanks again and have a great week ahead. That was totally unsolicited, just a random email I got. I thought that was pretty cool. I wanted to share it with you and they said I could. So this has blown past every expectation. It's by far the most hands-on, personalized training that I've ever offered, and it's worked out extremely well for both the developers and the publishers. In fact, a lot of people, guys, actually built really big businesses off the back of Publisher Elite because they get to know these publishers and they start releasing games, multiple games with them over and over. But the main reason we're opening this back up is because publishers are wanting more games than we can deliver. We literally have more demand from the publishers than supply from the developers, okay? So we're excited to offer this again, and as mentioned earlier, for an even more affordable price. So speaking of, let's discuss the price of Publisher Elite X. Now, the original Publisher Elite cost $7,000, and it was a huge success. We sold out in 1 week, and as mentioned, these customers just crushed it. We got deals done with every single major publisher out there, Unicorn Games, etc. And with Publisher Elite X, we wanted to create something just as effective, but also more affordable. So the cost of Publisher Elite X is only $1,999, and that includes everything: the training, the consulting, support, Q&A sessions, game reviews, publisher submissions, and introductions. And of course, we don't actually take any percentage of your game from you or the publisher. We're not involved in the ownership of the game. You own everything you create, and we're not involved in the finances. We simply just help you get the game published. Also, we have some discounts available for people who order quickly. I'll explain in a second why we're doing this, but here's how it'll work. So the first 50 customers who order Publisher Elite X are going to get $500 off. This will make the price for them only $1,499. Then the next 50 customers are going to get $250 off. This will make the price $1,749. And then everyone else will have to pay the full price at $1,999. Now, to be clear, all of these get the same exact product. They all get the full year of Publisher Elite X. And the reason we're doing this is to limit the program. See, this is a unique product.
This is one that we absolutely cannot overfill. And if we did, we'd have too many games to submit to publishers, and we can't let that happen. So we decided a great way to limit this is by rewarding members who take action first. So after we hit this full price, we'll be closing orders soon after. Now, the goal with this pricing was simple. We want you to recoup your investment on the very first game that you get published, even if it's not a unicorn game. And even at the full price, it's a very reasonable goal to hit. So to join Publisher Elite X and receive this initial $500 discount, click on the button on the right-hand side or head over to publisherelite.com. All right, guys, so that's Publisher Elite X. It's the only program ever created that will hold your hand through every step of the process. We help you create the right game, make it perfect, and get it published. It's a full year long, but with limited availability. So if you're ready to take the next leap in your game business, then click the button to learn more. That will take you to publisherelite.com where you can see full details on the program. You can also check the current pricing at any time there as well. All right, guys, so that's Publisher Elite X. I hope you enjoyed this event, regardless if you get Publisher Elite X or not. I hope you had a blast and learned something about getting your games published. This is something we're truly passionate about. We love doing this. We love talking about it. I mean, our whole entire lives, from Buildbox to things like Publisher Elite here to the game business, this is what we do day in and day out. So I really enjoy doing events like this, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. All right, guys, so once again, Trey Smith here, and I really appreciate it. If you get Publisher Elite, I will see you on the other side. Had a blast doing this, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.